They said I embarrassed her at my own son's charity gala, the one I paid for. The champagne was cold, the music polite, and Elise, my daughter-in-law, looked every bit the perfect hostess until she turned that microphone into a knife. "I'm so sorry about my mother-in-law," she laughed to the crowd, eyes sparkling. "She's not used to events like these. It's cute, really." People laughed. I didn't, because she knew exactly what she was doing. She wanted me small. She wanted me forgotten. I smiled the way women of my generation were trained to. My hands stayed still. My heart did not. What she didn't know, what none of them knew, was that the gala's security cameras were mine. Every angle, every mic, every whisper. Because when you build the hall, you decide where the lenses point. And later that night, when the laughter faded and the wine dried on their tongues, I played it back. Not just her joke, her entire conversation, every insult, every plan, every lie she whispered to my son about getting the house early. They thought I'd just stand there smiling through humiliation. They were wrong. Stay till the end. You'll see why her laughter cost her everything. The next morning, the flowers from the gala still sit on my counter, wilted, over-perfumed, pretending to be beautiful. My son Daniel walks in with that hangover guilt men wear when they've watched something ugly and said nothing. "Mom," he starts, voice soft, "Elise didn't mean it that way." "She meant it exactly that way," I say, "and you let her." He looks at me, eyes tired, expensive watch gleaming like a distraction. "You know how she gets under pressure. Then she should stop confusing cruelty with charm." He exhales, rubs his neck. "Let's not make this bigger than it is." "That depends," I say. "How big is your mortgage?" He blinks. "What?" "Nothing." I sip my coffee. "Just a question." He leaves a few minutes later, frustrated, muttering something about keeping peace. Peace, the word people use when they mean submission. When the door closes, I turn to the security console in my study. 12 feeds from the gala. Every corner of that ballroom belongs to me. I watch her again. Elise in her silver gown, laughing, pretending to trip, eyes sliding toward my son like possession. Every frame drips with arrogance. She told people I was sweet but simple, told the event manager to seat me at the back, where she'll be comfortable. And later, she whispered to her friend, "Once Daniel moves the shares, we'll finally get control." I paused the footage there. Control. That's the word that makes my hand stop trembling. I print the transcript, 3 pages long, neat and damning. Then I fold it once and place it in a red envelope. By noon, Elise calls. Her voice is sugary, as if the night before never happened. "Mother Hayes," she says, "the party was such a success. Everyone adored you." "Really?" I reply. I must have misheard the laughter. "Don't be dramatic. It was just a joke." "Some jokes are written in ink, dear. Harder to erase." She hesitates, sensing danger. "Are you upset?" "No." I lie softly. "I'm observant." After we hang up, I visit the garden, my quiet theater for thinking. Roses trimmed, soil damp, sunlight warm. Out here, nobody performs. I think about how long I've kept my wealth quiet. The real estate, the accounts, the shares still in my maiden name. Daniel never asked. Elise never suspected. That's how you stay safe in families like ours. You let them believe you're comfortable, not powerful. In the afternoon, my housekeeper, Maria, brings in the leftover decorations from the gala. "Señora," she says, setting the boxes down gently, "they said to discard these." I nod. "Not yet." "Something wrong?" I smile. "Something right, actually." Inside one of the boxes, I find the small black camera I'd planted near the podium. Its lens still glints like an eye that never blinks. When I open the file, I see everything. Her fake laugh, her whispered plans, even the moment Daniel's face turns away as she ridicules me. That's the clip I'll use. No arguments, no gossip, just proof. That evening, Daniel texts me, Mom, Elise feels terrible. She wants to apologize in person. I reply, tomorrow, dinner, my place. He types back too quickly. Thank you. I set my phone down and whisper to the empty room, don't thank me yet. Dinner the next night is quiet, polite, surgical. Elise arrives in pearls and perfume, armed with performance. Mother Hayes, she begins. I was out of line at the gala. Yes, I say simply. You were. She blinks. I just wanted everyone to have fun. Fun doesn't usually come at someone's expense, I reply. Daniel reaches for her hand. We're moving past it, Mom. I nod, take a slow breath, and pour the wine. For now, I say. But some things need to be seen clearly, don't you agree? She frowns. Of course. Good, I whisper. Then you'll love what I'm showing at next week's board dinner. Her smile falters. What are you showing? Just footage, I say softly, from the gala. The silence after that tastes like victory beginning to bloom. She recovers, laughs awkwardly. Oh, you recorded the speeches? I recorded everything, I say, and I'm rather proud of what the cameras caught. Elise's fork slips, hits her plate. Daniel's voice tightens. Mom, what are you saying? Nothing, I say. Yet. Dinner ends early. When they leave, I stand at the window, watching their car disappear down the drive. Elise will call it a threat. Daniel will call it a misunderstanding, but I call it evidence. I lock the door, pour myself another glass of wine, and whisper. They wanted a show. I'll give them one. The next week, Daniel stops calling me Mom. Now it's Mother. Cold, polite, rehearsed, like he's talking to a shareholder. He drops by the house one afternoon, uninvited. Says he was just in the neighborhood, but his eyes keep flicking to my study door. Everything okay? He asks. Perfect, I say. You? He nods too fast. Yeah, Elise was worried you were upset. I'm not upset, I tell him. I'm patient. He laughs awkwardly, moves toward the window. You've been watching a lot of news lately? Just what interests me, I say. Sometimes I even record it. That makes him blink. He knows, somewhere in him, the truth is starting to itch. That night, I find the first sign that something is shifting. My office chair slightly moved, the camera console turned off, files rearranged. They've been checking. I make no mention. Instead, I install a backup. Hidden in the frame of the hallway mirror. It's not paranoia if you're right. The next day, Elise calls. Her voice is the same syrup she used the night she humiliated me. Mother Hayes, she says sweetly, the board dinner. Are you sure you want to host it here? It's such a big event. I built this house for big things, I say. It'll do fine. She hesitates. Maybe we could host it at the club instead. It's more neutral. Neutral? I repeat softly. You mean safer? There's a pause. She recovers fast, nervous laughter bubbling through the line. Of course not. I just thought you'd be tired. I'm tired of many things, I say, but not this. That evening, she posts photos on social media. Perfect smiles, champagne glasses, a caption, grateful for family, grace, and forgiveness. Forgiveness. A word people use when they think they've won. When Daniel visits again, he brings flowers, orchids, the kind Elise buys when she's overcompensating. I thought these might brighten your mood, he says. They do, I reply, especially when people bring them for the wrong reasons. He frowns. Mom, can we please not fight? I'm not fighting, I whisper. I'm observing. The air goes still. He changes the subject, talks about investments, the charity, the foundation Elise manages. Every sentence is a cover, every glance a confession. Later that night, I check the camera feed again. One clip stands out. Elise in my office, touching the files, whispering into her phone. She's bluffing. There's no footage. She's just trying to scare us. The confidence in her voice makes me smile. I almost admire her delusion. I print a still image from the footage. Elise's hand on my desk, mid-lie. and slip it into my drawer, right beside the red envelope. 2 days later, she stops by unexpectedly, carrying a bottle of wine. "I thought we could start fresh," she says. "How generous," I answer. "Wine before war." We sit on the patio. She talks about parties, renovations, people I don't care to remember. Her words flutter like cheap curtains trying to hide a storm. When she stands to leave, I notice her eyeing the study door again. "Curious?" I ask. She freezes. "What?" "About what's inside." "Oh, no, I'd be curious too," I interrupt, smiling. "Secrets make a house interesting." Her smile stiffens. She leaves in a hurry. After she's gone, I open my notebook and write, "They think they're clearing evidence." They're actually leaving fingerprints. That night, I pour myself tea and stand by the window, watching the reflection of the house in the glass. It looks peaceful. Too peaceful. I whisper to it softly. The louder people laugh, the closer they are to losing. Then I add one last line to my notes, the one that seals this chapter. That's when I started watching. The week after the dinner invitation, everything turns oddly peaceful. The kind of silence that means someone is plotting. Elise starts sending flowers again. Always white lilies, always expensive. Maybe she thinks guilt smells like purity. Daniel calls more often, his tone soft but strained. He tells me he's worried that I seem different. "I am," I say gently. "Different is overdue." He doesn't understand. None of them do. I move through my days like a shadow in my own house. No more confrontation, no more lectures. Just calm, polite routine, the camouflage of a woman they think is aging, not calculating. Every morning I walk through the garden, pruning roses that don't need pruning. It keeps my hands busy while my mind sharpens. I replay every insult, every whisper, every laugh from that night. Revenge, I've learned, matures like good wine. It needs air and patience. At lunch, Maria brings soup and a smile. "Senora, you look peaceful today," she says. "I am," I tell her. "Peaceful people plan the cleanest wars." She laughs nervously, not sure if it's a joke. I don't clarify. By afternoon, I'm back in my study. The room they avoid now. The curtains drawn, screens lit, evidence organized in small labeled folders. Gala footage. Phone transcripts. Elise. Plans. Each one a thread ready to be pulled. Sometimes I think about telling Daniel the truth, warning him before it hits. But every time I picture his face from the gala, how easily he laughed when she mocked me, the mercy dies in my throat. He didn't defend me. He didn't stop her. He'll learn the way she did, publicly. In the evenings, I visit the ballroom. I've rented it again for the upcoming board dinner. No one knows that it's mine now. I quietly purchased it 2 years ago when they thought I was downsizing. That's the beauty of wealth kept private. It's invisible until you weaponize it. I stand beneath the chandeliers testing the acoustics. The faint echo of my heels on marble reminds me of applause. Soon enough, it will be. The event planner tries to fuss about decor. "Mrs. Hayes, shall we add more gold tones for warmth?" "No," I say. "Keep it silver. It suits the mood." At home, I map the seating arrangement. Elise at the center, directly facing the projection screen. Daniel beside her, close enough to see his reflection in the wreckage. Investors and partners on either side, their eyes forming the audience I want. Every seat, every plate, every flower placed like punctuation in a speech I've rehearsed in silence. Maria watches me prepare the place cards. "Why so specific, Senora?" "Because precision," I tell her, "is the politest kind of revenge." That night, I test the projector one last time. The footage opens to laughter, Elise's voice cutting through music. She's not used to events like these. It's cute, really. Then the crowd laughing, my son looking away, and after that, her whisper to her friend. Once Daniel moves the shares, we'll finally get control. I pause the video. The frame freezes on her smile, smug, glittering, poisonous. I lean closer to the screen and whisper, "You wanted an audience. I'm just giving you one." Then I save the file twice, once on a flash drive, once in the cloud. You can't be too careful with truth. When I step outside, the night air smells of rain and roses. I sit on the porch with a glass of wine and feel my heartbeat finally slow. I realize I don't hate Elise anymore. What I feel now isn't hate. It's readiness. It's the serenity that comes right before the storm hits. Inside, the grandfather clock chimes midnight, one clear note echoing through empty rooms. I whisper to it softly, "They think they're forgiven. They're only being framed." Then I blow out the candle and smile, the calm, dangerous kind of smile that always comes before headlines. The night of the board dinner arrives dressed in elegance and hypocrisy. Cars line the long driveway, headlights slicing through the dark like impatient glances. The ballroom glows with gold and silver, perfect, sterile, deceitful. People love to look generous when the cameras are rolling. I stand at the entrance, greeting guests with that same gentle smile they've mistaken for softness my whole life. "Mrs. Hayes," they say, "you look radiant." Age polishes some of us, I reply. Others just rust. They laugh politely, unsure if it's a joke. It isn't. Elise arrives last, deliberately late like a queen entering her court. Silver gown, perfect curls, that same breathy laugh. Daniel trails behind, tuxedo pressed, eyes darting like a man trying not to see what's coming. "Mother Hayes," Elise says, leaning in for an air kiss. "Darling," I answer smoothly, "thank you for coming. This night's for you." She beams. "Oh, you didn't have to." "I did." We take our seats. The room buzzes with chatter, forks clinking against porcelain, money talking in low voices. At the far end, the projector hums softly. Waiting. Halfway through the meal, Elise rises for a toast. She always craves the microphone. "To family," she says, voice trembling with fake affection. "To forgiveness and growth, and to those who've taught me grace." Her eyes slide to me. Smug, shining, cruel. I raise my glass and smile. She doesn't know she's toasting her own ending. When she finishes, I stand. "Beautiful words, Elise," I say. But I think our guests deserve a little truth tonight, something memorable. A few heads turn, laughter fades, confusion ripples. Elise's smile wavers. "Truth?" "Yes," I reply, pressing the remote in my hand. "After all, this evening's about transparency, isn't it?" The lights dim. The projector flickers alive, and suddenly her voice fills the room. She's not used to events like these. It's cute, really. Laughter from the gala echoes through the speakers. The same people sitting here now, faces tightening as they recognize themselves. Elise blinks fast. "What is this?" I hold up a hand. "Wait, it gets better. Once Daniel moves the shares, we'll finally get control." "Don't worry, she'll sign anything if you make it sound like family." Gasps scatter through the room like falling glass. Daniel's face drains of color. Elise tries to speak, but her own voice cuts her off again, looped from another angle. Laughing, whispering, plotting. People start murmuring. The CFO leans forward. "Are those real?" "Oh yes," I say softly. "I have the originals too, for the audit." Elise slams her hand on the table. "This is illegal. You can't—" "I own the hall," I interrupt, "and every camera in it." Silence. The kind of silence that breaks reputations. Daniel stares at me like he's seeing a stranger. "Mom," he whispers, "why would you—" "Because," I say, "you didn't stop her." I turn to the crowd. "Forgive the interruption, everyone. I just thought it was time the board knew who's been moving my assets without consent." A man from accounting clears his throat. "You mean the transfer requests?" "Yes. The forged ones." I slide a folder across the table, her signature, copied line for line. "Filed through her husband's email. Your system logs are sloppy, by the way. Elise's hands shake. This is insane. No, I say, this is proof. For a moment, all she can do is breathe fast, a trapped sound ugly against the polished air. Daniel whispers something to her, but she jerks away, panic showing through the makeup. I step closer, calm as a sermon. You wanted control, I say. You even rehearsed the part. Poor woman, losing her touch, easy to manipulate. Her lips tremble. You don't understand. I understand everything. I built the life you tried to steal. She glances around, searching for an ally. No one meets her eyes. In high society, guilt spreads faster than gossip. The CFO leans back, crossing his arms. Mrs. Hayes, should we suspend her access until this is reviewed? That won't be necessary, I say. Her access was terminated this morning. The crowd murmurs again. Admiration this time, soft and sharp. Elise looks at Daniel, desperate. Say something. He just stares at the screen, at her smiling face frozen mid-lie. He doesn't speak. He can't. I pick up my glass of wine. To family, I say quietly, may we finally know who belongs in it. And with that, I turn off the projector. For a heartbeat, no one moves. Then the applause begins. Slow, uncomfortable, real. A few people stand. Some don't. It doesn't matter. Elise storms out, heels snapping like gunfire. Daniel follows her halfway, then stops, turns back. He looks older suddenly, smaller. Mom, he says, voice breaking. You could have ruined me. I didn't, I answer. She did. I just provided the lighting. He drops his gaze, nods once, and walks out. His silence is my victory song. When the last guest leaves, I stand alone in the empty hall. The chandeliers glimmer faintly, reflections of power reclaimed. Maria enters quietly from the side door. Signora, it worked. Yes, I say. It always does when you stop begging and start planning. She hesitates. You're not happy? I smile faintly. Happiness is for endings, Maria. This was just correction. As I leave the ballroom, I glance once more at the blank screen. For years, they used my kindness as camouflage for their greed. Tonight, I turned it into evidence. Outside, the night is cool, silent, and full of consequence. I look up at the stars, distant, watching, impartial, and whisper, they thought I'd forgotten. I was just waiting for the playback. Then I walk toward my car, heels clicking on marble, heartbeat steady. It's not the sound of revenge anymore, it's the sound of restoration. And though no one can see it, I'm smiling. The quiet, powerful kind of smile that belongs only to women who remember everything. The morning after the board dinner, my house smells like rain and quiet victory. News travels fast in circles built on champagne and pretense. By sunrise, half the town already knows the humiliation of Elise Hayes. I don't read the headlines. I wrote the story. Still, victory has a strange silence to it, the kind that hums under the skin, whispering, this isn't over. At 8:30 sharp, Daniel shows up unannounced. No flowers this time, just the look of a man who's been dragged through his own mirror. Mom, he says, voice low. The lawyers called. They want a statement. Yours or mine? Both. He sits across from me at the kitchen table, hands trembling slightly. Elise said you edited those videos. Did she? He nods. She's saying you spliced her words together. I stir my tea slowly. Then perhaps she should review the raw footage. I've already submitted it to the auditors. His eyes widen. You did what? I made it official, Daniel. This isn't gossip anymore. It's record. He leans back, shaking his head. She's panicking, Mom. She thinks you'll go after her publicly. I look at him evenly. Elise should worry less about me and more about the paper trail she left behind. He swallows hard. You already found it, didn't you? I smile faintly. I'm still finding it. That afternoon, I drive into town, the first time in weeks. The city feels smaller than I remember. Power does that, it shifts your sense of scale. At the bank, the manager greets me personally. "Mrs. Hayes?" he says, voice trembling with courtesy. "I'm so sorry for the inconvenience those irregular transfers caused." I tilt my head. "Irregular?" He clears his throat. "Yes, we've been tracing transactions from a secondary account. One registered under your name but linked to your daughter-in-law's business line." I let him talk. He lists figures, signatures, routing numbers, all precise, all incriminating. When he finishes, I ask one question: "How long has this been happening?" He checks his screen. "Almost 2 years." 2 years. While she was serving me tea and calling me mother. I thank him calmly, shake his hand, and walk out with a folder full of truth. Outside. The wind feels sharper. The world looks cleaner. That evening, I meet someone unexpected. Thomas, the event videographer from the gala. He found my contact through Maria. "I thought you might want this," he says, sliding a flash drive across the cafe table. "It's the behind-the-scenes footage. Security didn't get this angle." I raise an eyebrow. "What's on it?" He hesitates. "A conversation between your daughter-in-law and one of the sponsors before the event started." Back home, I pour a glass of wine, dim the lights, and press play. The footage is grainy but clear enough. Elise, leaning close to a man in a tailored suit, one of Daniel's partners, her voice low, playful. If Daniel can't convince her, I'll make sure the documents get signed anyway. She won't even remember she did it. He laughs. "You're ruthless." She smiles. "Only when I have to be." The timestamp reads 3 days before the gala, so the humiliation wasn't spontaneous. It was strategy. I sit back, staring at her frozen image on the screen. It's not anger I feel anymore. It's precision. The cold focus of someone who finally understands the game. I pick up the phone and call my attorney. "James," I say calmly, "I'll need to reopen the estate trust review and start the process for financial misconduct." He pauses. "Against whom?" "Elise Harper Hayes," I reply, "and anyone who helped her." For the next week, I move like a ghost through marble halls. Calm, composed, lethal. Daniel calls twice, texts once. Each message shorter than the last. He's unraveling too, just slower. Meanwhile, Elise vanishes from public sight. Rumors spread. She left town. She's filing countersuits. She's checking into some spa to heal. I let them talk. Let the silence do the damage. Because sometimes the worst punishment isn't noise. It's being erased from the story you tried to steal. On Friday evening, I sit on the porch with Maria. She pours tea while I flip through the financial records. Page after page of transactions Elise thought she'd buried. "Senora," Maria says softly, "after this, will you forgive them?" I look at her, surprised. "Forgive?" I echo. She nods. "It's what God would want." I smile faintly. "I'm not God, Maria. I'm the consequence." The words come out calm, even gentle, but they hang in the air like thunder before a storm. Later that night, I seal the last folder and lock it in the safe. Everything is ready. The lies, the signatures, the proof, all aligned. Tomorrow, Elise will learn what happens when the quiet woman remembers everything. I blow out the candle and glance at my reflection in the darkened window. Steady eyes, painted lips, and a faint, knowing smile. "She said I embarrassed her," I whisper, "but she hasn't even begun to feel it yet." Saturday dawns clear and sharp, the kind of morning that makes lies look silly. I dress in a silk blouse and a long skirt, pearls at my throat like quiet punctuation. The folder of proof sits on the table, heavy as a verdict. At 9, the doorbell rings. Daniel first. Hair uncombed, eyes bruised by a sleepless night. Elise follows a moment later, perfect again, like panic sprayed with perfume. We don't meet in the kitchen. I lead them to the study, a room that likes truth more than people. The curtains are drawn, the screens dark, the safe open. I want them to see what prepared looks like. Daniel clears his throat. Mom, before you say anything, I'm sorry. Elise shoots him a look. Don't admit guilt. There's nothing. Sit, I say. They do. Not because they want to. Because the air tells them to. I place 3 stacks on the desk. Bank logs, video transcripts, and witness statements. Then I rest my hand on the smallest stack. The one that hurts. 2 years, I say softly. That's how long you've been moving my money. Elise's smile holds. That's not accurate. Your name isn't accurate either, I reply. Not on my accounts. I slide a sheet across to Daniel. The first transfer, 6 months after their wedding. He reads, swallows, nods like a man trying not to drown. Elise doesn't touch hers. She keeps her hands in her lap as if innocence is a posture. You set a trap, she says. You humiliated me publicly. No, I say. I turned on the lights. She leans forward, whispering, You spliced the audio. I raise an eyebrow. Would you like the raw files, or shall we play them together now? Silence. The kind that kneels. I turn to Daniel. When did you know? He stares at the paper. I didn't. Not at first. Not at first, I repeat. But then you did. He nods. Tiny. As if moving his head might break it. I told myself you'd never notice, he says. I told myself it was for the family. Greed loves the word family, I answer. It sounds like loyalty when it's really theft. Elise finally touches a document. The videographer's clip, time-stamped before the gala. Her eyes flicker. She keeps her voice calm, but the edges show. You went too far. You went first, I say. I rise, walk to the window, and open the curtains. Morning floods the room, merciless and clean. On the glass cabinet behind them, their reflections sit like witnesses. This is how it's gonna go, I say, turning back. I'll speak. You won't interrupt. When I'm finished, you'll sign. Sign what? Daniel asks. Relinquishment, I say, of management authority, board privileges, and access. You'll remain my son. You will not remain my steward. He blinks. Mom? Mother? I correct him. You've called me that all week like I'm a stranger. Let's keep it honest. He flinches. Elise stares at me, chin high as if money can stand up straight. First, I continue, the bank's irregulars, a ghost account linked to your business line. I look at Elise. You used my name to borrow credit only my history could afford. She doesn't deny it. She just rearranges her posture as though comfort is a confession. Second, the sponsor conversation 3 days before the gala. I tap the transcript. If she doesn't sign, I'll make sure she thinks she did. That was your promise. Elise smiles small. People say things. People record them, I say, especially when the ballroom belongs to them. Third, I say, turning to Daniel, the transfer requests launched from your email. You'll blame her for those. She'll blame stress. We'll all know better. He leans forward, voice cracking. I was wrong. You were lazy, I answer. In my house, that's worse. He closes his eyes. A sound leaves him I haven't heard since he was 8. The small surrender of a boy caught stealing. Elise looks at him, realizes he's useless now, shifts tactics. May, she says, softening, we can fix this. We can handle it privately. That's how you handled me, I say. Privately, in the dark. She exhales, impatient. What do you want? Apology, I say. Public, signed. Dated. And the funds returned with interest. Her laugh breaks, brittle. You think I have that kind of money? I know you don't, I say. But the partners you courted will. They'll liquidate your position the moment they see your name on my lawsuit draft. Her breath hitches. She looks at Daniel for rescue. He has none to give. I slide another paper forward. While we're tidy, you'll resign from the foundation board, effective today. She scoffs. You don't control the foundation. I smile. I own the building. The board meets on my floors. Ownership is a flexible word when you own the ground. A long, slow silence. The clock ticks like a metronome to her unraveling. Then the smallest sound changes everything. The ping of my phone. A message from my attorney. Filings accepted. Temporary injunction granted. I set the phone down where they can see. While we talk, I say mildly, the court is doing what courts do, preserving what belongs to me. Elise swallows. You went legal? It's the only polite language left, I say. She slumps back. The armor leaks. A woman without an audience always does. Daniel wipes his face. What happens to us now? You learn, I say. Consequences teach in ways mothers can't. He nods. It's the first honest thing he does today. Elise tries again, quieter now. If I sign, will you drop the public part? You'll sign, I say, and I'll decide how loudly the truth needs to speak. She stares at the pen beside the papers like it's a blade. Her hand edges toward it, then stops. What if I refuse? I tilt my head. Then the playback gets a larger screen, I answer. And the people who thought you were glitter will learn you were glue, sticky, cheap, and hard to remove. She studies me, finally understanding. Not what I have, what I am. A woman with nothing left they can take. Her fingers close around the pen. She signs the first page, then the second, breathing through her nose like control is oxygen. On the third page, her hand hesitates. This clause, she whispers, barred from managing family assets. Indefinitely? Indefinitely, I say. You confused access with belonging. This clarifies. She signs. The ink shines wet for a heartbeat, then dries like a door shutting. I turn to Daniel. You'll sign too. He does, without reading. I push the paper back. Read it. Learn the shape of your surrender. He forces his eyes down, lips moving around words that cut him from his own comfort. Cede, relinquish, attest. When he finishes, he signs. The pen leaves a shaky line, the truest thing he's written in years. I collect the pages, slide them into the folder, and lock them in the safe. Metal meets metal with a clean click. That's the sound of a boundary repaired. Elise stands, shaky. Is that it? Almost, I say. Sit. She does. I open the smallest drawer and remove a velvet box. Inside, a ring, my mother's, returned from a pawn slip I bought back yesterday. I place it between us. You tried to sell this, I say. Her eyes flicker. You did, I correct. That's not a question. I pick up the ring, slide it onto my finger. It settles where it belongs. Then I look at her, finally letting warmth touch my voice. You could have had a life here, I say. I would have given you the kind of safety only quiet money can build. All you had to do was be kind. She looks at the floor. Kindness is the only luxury she never learned. Go home, I say at last. Pack. Your key stops working tonight. She stands without lifting her gaze. When she reaches the door, she turns back, something like wonder in her face. How did you do this, she whispers, without yelling? I smile. Because I never lost my voice, I say. I just waited until the room was mine. They leave together, but not together. Two silhouettes pretending to be a marriage. The door closes. The house breathes. I sit alone in the quiet that follows and think about what truth costs. It isn't cheap, but it's the only currency that never devalues. My phone pings again, a text from my attorney. Injunction served, accounts frozen, press hold advised until settlement. I type back, understood. Then I pour tea, mint, steady hands, no tremor, and carry my cup to the window. Outside, the garden glows, stubborn and alive. Inside, the study smells of paper and the faint sweetness of victory. I whisper into the steam. She said I embarrassed her at the party, but when the cameras played back, she met herself. I take a slow sip, and for the first time since this began, I let myself feel it. Not triumph, not gloating, but ownership, returned and rightful. Tomorrow is for lawyers and accountants, Tonight belongs to the woman who remembered everything and finally made remembering useful. I set the cup down, turn off the desk lamp, and close the safe. The room falls into a dignified dark. Truth doesn't need light anymore. It already knows the way. 3 days later, I find the courage to visit the house my son and Elise once shared. My name's still on the deed, though they'd both forgotten. The driveway is littered with wilted petals from some event she tried to salvage, the kind of flowers that smell like apology after it's too late. When the door opens, Daniel looks smaller. Shoulders hunched, tie loose, eyes rimmed red. He steps aside. "She's here," he says. Elise sits at the kitchen island in a bathrobe, hair undone, the kind of disarray money can't disguise. She doesn't look at me. I walk in quietly, the way you approach a grave you don't plan to mourn. On the counter, half-open mail, a bank notice, and a silver frame turned face down. She finally speaks. "Was it worth it?" Her voice is soft, frayed at the edges. "Yes," I say. "It always is when the truth finally answers." She laughs, brittle, broken. "You ruined me." "No," I say. "You ruined yourself. I just stopped covering the noise." Daniel pours a glass of water, hands shaking. "She's leaving," he mutters. Elise glares at him. "You think she'll stop there? She'll destroy us both." "I already did," I say, and yet I'm still calm. The words land like cold wind. Elise pushes the glass away. "Do you have any idea what it's like to be underestimated your entire life?" I tilt my head. "Every idea." She looks at me, something like shame flickering across her face. "Then why not forgive me?" "Because forgiveness without consequence," I say, "is permission." Daniel sits down slowly, as if his legs no longer know loyalty. "Mom," he says, "I didn't know how to stop her." "You didn't have to stop her," I say quietly. "You only had to not join her." He nods, tears glinting. I know what you thought," I interrupt. "You thought I was old, fragile, fading. That's the lie every greedy child tells themselves before they lose everything." He wipes his face with the back of his hand. "What happens now?" "You start over," I say. "Without her. Without my money. Without excuses." Elise stands abruptly. "I'm not giving you the satisfaction of watching me beg." "Good," I answer. "Begging would only insult what's left of your dignity." She storms past me, perfume fading like a bad memory. Daniel watches her go, the sound of the door slamming final, clean. He looks at me again, voice small. "Will you ever forgive me?" "I already have," I say. "That's why I'm leaving before I start hating you." He nods, broken. At the doorway, I pause. The house is beautiful, cold, hollow, the kind of beauty that comes from deceit and designer rugs. I glance at the silver frame lying face down, pick it up. It's a photo of Daniel, years younger, his arm around me. Both of us smiling like fools who believed family meant forever. I set it upright on the counter and whisper, "You forgot what mattered." But I didn't. Then I walk out. Outside, the air feels lighter, like the house was the last thing weighing me down. In the driveway, my car gleams under the morning sun. I slide into the driver's seat and breathe, slow, deep, real. Through the windshield, I see Daniel standing in the doorway watching me. He looks lost, but not hopeless, and that's enough. I start the engine, roll down the window, and say the last thing he needs to hear. "Remember, son, power doesn't ruin people. Weakness does." Then I drive away. No music, no tears, just the sound of gravel under tires. A clean, final sentence to a long, dirty chapter. It takes exactly 3 weeks for the world to catch up. By then, Elise has disappeared from every event list, every newsletter, every whispered brunch circle. In high society, erasure is the new exile. The story still circulates, of course. People love a fall, especially when it's dressed in designer failure. "Did you hear?" they whisper. Her mother-in-law caught her stealing the estate. They never say my name with pity anymore. They say it with pause. I don't attend their parties. I host my own. The first one is quiet, invitation only. A fundraiser, the same annual charity Elise once claimed as her stage. Only this time, the invitations are embossed with one simple line beneath the title, hosted by May Harper Hayes, founder, benefactor, survivor. When the guests arrive, there's no champagne tower, no orchestra pretending to care. Just candlelight, live piano, and silence thick enough to listen through. People approach me cautiously like I've turned myth. "Mrs. Hayes," one woman says, "you're an inspiration." "No," I reply softly. "I'm a correction." By dessert, the journalists hover. Subtle, respectful. They've all read the court filings, forged documents, financial fraud, misappropriated funds. The judge's ruling came 2 days ago. Everything restored to me. Everything Elise touched. Frozen, liquidated, reassigned. My attorney, James, leans over. "It's official," he whispers. "Full restitution. All assets returned, with damages." I nod. "Good. Donate the damages." He blinks. "To whom?" "To the women's shelter," I say. "For those who were talked over until they learned to whisper smarter." He smiles, half in awe, half in confusion. "Mrs. Hayes, you could rebuild an empire with this." "I already have," I say. "It just doesn't need walls." A week later, a journalist from the Ledger asks for an interview. I agree on one condition: no photographs. "Just words," I tell her. "People remember those longer." We sit in my garden, the one I rebuilt after everything burned down metaphorically. The roses bloom like they know the story. She asks gently, "Do you feel vindicated?" I shake my head. Vindication is a smaller word than this. "What would you call it then?" "Balance," I say. "Finally, balance." She flips through her notes. "And your son? Any reconciliation?" I smile faintly. Healing isn't a sprint, it's an audit. Her pen pauses. "Do you hate her? Elise?" "Yes." "No," I say. "She gave me back my edge. That's gratitude, not hatred." When the interview runs, the headline reads, "The woman who remembered everything. How one mother reclaimed her legacy." It goes viral, not because it's scandalous, but because it's precise. Women send letters. Strangers write thank yous. Every message starts the same way. "You made me realize I'm not powerless." Daniel visits again one afternoon. No fancy car, no expensive suit, just him, unarmored. He stands at the edge of the porch, hesitant. "I got a new job," he says. "Smaller firm." "Smaller sounds honest," I reply. He nods. Eyes wet. "Mom, I want to make it right." "You already are," I say, "by not asking for anything." He looks down. "Do you ever miss her?" "Elise?" He nods. "I miss who you were before her," I answer. "That's enough loss for one lifetime." He takes a breath, then says something that almost breaks me. "I finally watched the footage." "Oh?" He nods slowly. "You didn't raise your voice once. That's what haunts me." I look at him. Quiet is what power sounds like when it's done pretending. He leaves soon after, lighter somehow. Maybe he'll learn, maybe not. Either way, I no longer carry his lessons for him. The board re-elects me as honorary chairwoman, a ceremonial title but heavy with irony. Elise once fought to hold that seat. Now it bears my name, engraved in silver. At the next meeting, I sit at the head of the table. The men who once dismissed me as Daniel's mother now lean in when I speak. It's almost funny how patriarchy behaves when its favorite accomplices fall. "Mrs. Hayes," one of them says, "we're honored to have your leadership back." I smile. "You never lost it. You just forgot where it came from." The room chuckles awkwardly. Truth always sounds like humor to cowards. We vote on new funding for education grants, scholarships for women over 40 who want to start again. Someone asks, "Why that age group?" "Because people forget them," I say, "until they remember themselves." The motion passes unanimously. That night, I stand in the ballroom alone after everyone's gone. The same chandeliers, the same marble floor, but now it feels different. It's mine, in name and in spirit. I walk to the center of the room and look up at the ceiling. The light reflects on the crystal edges, scattering across the floor like small crowns. I whisper to the empty air. They said I embarrassed her at the party, but she taught me performance. I just perfected it. My reflection in the mirrored wall doesn't look angry. It looks fulfilled. The kind of woman who outgrew revenge because she learned control was louder. When I leave, I don't look back. The lights stay on, not as vanity, but as a reminder. Even when they tried to erase me, I remained visible. In the car, I glance at the folder on the seat beside me, the final settlement papers, unsigned. I take a pen, flip to the last page, and scrawl my name one last time. My signature looks steady, unapologetic, alive. Maria once told me every betrayal has a temperature. If that's true, tonight's feels cool, like steel after it's been forged. I roll down the window. The wind hits my face, carrying the scent of roses from home. I whisper to the dark road ahead. Revenge is temporary. Restoration is forever. And with that, I drive toward the horizon, not as the woman they mocked, but as the woman who built the camera, owned the playback, and rewrote the ending. The world feels slower now, not quieter, just respectful. The air in my house carries no echo of tension, no trace of fear, only the faint scent of jasmine tea and polished oak. I sit by the window every morning, the same window I once stared out of, waiting for their car to return from that awful gala. Funny how distance looks different when it's chosen. On the table beside me sits a small silver tray, porcelain teacup, my mother's ring, and a folded note that says, "Paid in full." I wear the ring every day now, not for vanity, for memory. It fits tighter than it used to, maybe because my fingers are stronger. The garden outside is blooming again. Maria's tending to the roses, humming softly under her breath. She catches me watching and smiles. The soil forgives faster than people, Senora. Maybe because it knows the difference between cutting and pruning, I reply. She laughs, nodding. And which did you do? I think about it. A little of both. Daniel writes every week, short letters, never excuses, just updates. He's moving to a small town, working under someone else now, learning humility one task at a time. Sometimes I reply, sometimes I don't. Love doesn't vanish. It just retires from service until it's safe again. As for Elise, the papers say she's living abroad, trying to rebuild her image. There's talk of her joining some luxury wellness brand, a rebrand they call it. I don't wish her harm, only memory, because forgetting is a privilege she hasn't earned. Every evening when the sun hits the garden wall just right, I pour tea into my favorite cup, the chipped one. It's a reminder that beauty doesn't need perfection to hold warmth. The steam rises, curling around my face like forgiveness I haven't spoken yet. I sip slowly, letting the silence fill the room like music only I can hear. Sometimes I still see the ghosts, laughter from that gala, the sting of her words, the tremor in my son's voice when he said, "Mom," but they don't hurt anymore. They just exist. Background noise in a house that's finally my own. I walk to the study sometimes, open the safe, look at the signed documents inside. Proof of truth, stacked and sealed. Not trophies, just reminders. I used to think peace meant silence. Now I know it means evidence, that everything that was taken has found its way home. I pour another cup of tea, hold it steady, and look out at the sunset burning behind the hills. It's beautiful, not because it's ending, but because it does every day and still returns. That's what healing feels like, not a triumph, a rhythm. I whisper into the amber light. You said I embarrassed you, Elise, but you never understood. Grace isn't weakness, it's preparation. The tea cools, the house glows, and for the first time in years, I let the quiet be enough. 5 years later, my mornings are slower, not from age, but from peace. The garden is taller now, the roses thicker, bolder, less afraid to bloom. Maria still works here, though she says she'll retire next spring. I told her she's free to go, but she only smiled and said, "Freedom isn't always leaving, Senora. Sometimes it's staying because you can." She's right. I stayed too, but as someone new. The city still whispers my name. Now they say it softly, respectfully. The way you mention a storm that built the river you drink from. Daniel visits with his little boy sometimes. My grandson runs through the garden, chasing butterflies I once thought would never return here. He calls me Nana May, and I let him wear my pearls like a crown. Maybe this time we'll teach love without debt attached. Elise never wrote again. I hear things, that she married a man with a yacht and too many mirrors, that she lives in a house that looks expensive but sounds empty. That's her punishment, to have everything money can buy and nothing that remembers her kindly. As for me, I built a foundation, quiet, unadvertised, helping women over 50 start again. They call it the Second Bloom Fund, because second chances like roses grow better after pruning. Sometimes I sit at the old study desk, the one where the war ended. The safe still hums quietly behind it. I haven't opened it in years. Some truths don't need retelling. The ring still gleams on my finger. The same hand that once trembled now signs grants, not checks for forgiveness. I lift my tea, breathe in its warmth, and smile. Sometimes being left behind, I whisper, is the fastest way to get ahead. And if you've ever trusted the wrong people, this story is for you. What would you have done in my place? Tell me in the comments. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like and subscribe. It helps me keep sharing these truths that too many women live quietly. And tell me in the comments, where in the world are you listening from? I love knowing how far these stories travel.